The title of the talk today is Sacred Ground, and that came up because I am at the sacred grounds of Unity Village. What you're seeing here is a virtual background, a picture that I took last year. But this morning, I walked around the grounds. So there's a little outdoor wedding chapel area, which is right next to the conference center where I'm staying. The Fillmore Cafe, which is a little cafe with a bookstore behind it. The grounds are spectacular. This is in Missouri, outside of Kansas City, and Missouri doesn't look a lot like this. The Fillmore's son was fascinated by Mediterranean architecture, so when they built Unity Village, that's what they used. The tower is noteworthy on the horizon because you can see it from miles away, and there's nothing else that looks like that. And there are fountains. People come by for the fountains who have no idea what the teaching is about, but think that they are absolutely beautiful. Strolling around the grounds, it's easy to see sacred ground. This is actually a prayer garden, and there are little benches with different things to bring intention to, engraved on the stones in front of the benches. So if you're looking for will or surrender, you can sit at that bench and do a prayer for that at that time, which is a wonderful opportunity to make a physical connection with our spiritual truth. There's also a brand new labyrinth. It was inaugurated last spring. It's the largest hand-cut stone labyrinth in North America, and it is spectacular. It was actually in the pictures promoting the talk today, and you can see it there. And there's a lot of information on it on the Unity website. And there's also this building. This is the 200 building, and you can kind of see up in the top there, kind of behind the tree, there's a shorter tower with a cupola in it. And inside of there, right below that big shiny light thing, is the Unity Prayer Vigil. And this is one of the most sacred ground things that I often do because the prayer vigil has been running continuously for 120 something years. And I'll tell you the story behind it. And if I can get my camera to switch back. That seems not. I think we're going to be on this slide for a little while. So Myrtle Fillmore was the sickly child, and she grew into the sickly woman. And she was married to Charles Fillmore, who was in the real estate business. And she was always ill. There was always something wrong. And in the late 1880s, she was presented with a concept. I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. I'm a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. And that was transformational in Myrtle's life. I'm a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. She turned away from her experience of being the sickly person for her entire life up until then, and became transformed. She was healed. And her husband had a problem, physical problems as well, and he used the same technique to heal his own physical experience. And that was all based on knowing that something else could be true. In 1890, they started a prayer vigil. So every day they would sit and do prayer for anybody who asked for healing prayer on their behalf. And they did that every day, and it kept going, and they kept getting stuff in the mail, and they prayed for everybody who sent stuff in the mail, and it got more and more popular. And then this brand new invention came along, and Charles Fillmore, who was leading edge technology guy, said, this telephone thing is going to be really good. So let's let people call us and ask for us to do prayer on the telephone. So they used the phones and now the internet to do prayer. And in the prayer vigil, right underneath the cupola in that building, the prayer vigil runs 24/7 and has been going since 1890. And when I'm here at Unity Village, I get an opportunity to spend a half an hour in the prayer vigil and join in that intention setting for those. It's usually about 30,000 people a month who are sending in prayers. And just to be immersed in that spiritual environment. And it is spectacular. And it's easy to say that, you take the tour around the grounds here, it's sacred ground. Obviously, it's sacred ground because of all the stuff that's here and the architecture and that it's Unity Village. And what makes it sacred ground is that it got made into sacred ground. So this didn't start out being any more sacred ground than any other ground, but because of the intention set, it is now a focal point of that sacred energy. And on the one hand, it's an invitation to come to Unity Village because it's a pretty cool place and you can feel that spiritual energy here. But it's equally a reminder that the ground that you are standing on is sacred ground and can be made more sacred by the activities that you bring to it. Myrtle and Charles Fulmer were not the last people who were healed by the prayer techniques that they had worked out, which are very similar to the prayer techniques that we use. Uses the same power, uses the same intention setting, slightly different process, but it is exactly the same overall arch of creating a new experience in life. So Johnny Coleman was in Chicago, and she got a diagnosis. The doctor called and said she's got 6 months to live. So she sprang into action and moved to Unity Village and started learning how to do these things. And she founded the Christ Universal Temple in Chicago, which is a huge 3,000 seat auditorium and a big congregation and a wonderful organization, and started the Universal Foundation for Better Living. And she lived to a ripe old age. So the doctors were mistaken, or something changed. And she stood on sacred ground and invited something different to happen. My friend Sheila McKeithen, she was really sick. She was given 6 days to live. It was particularly dire. And she did the same thing, knowing I am a child of God and therefore I do not inherit sickness. And she'd been part of this teaching for a while and she knew it, but she doubled down and she focused in on what's going on. That diagnosis was 30 years ago. She is now the current president of the Universal Foundation for Better Living, and she's doing just fine. The technique, bringing the sacred to what we're doing, works for our health. It works for our finances. We've got the 90-day tithing challenge, which is starting today. And you can sign up and get into the practice and find out how you can transform your financial affairs using this teaching. I'm a child of God. I am in the flow of that divine goodness. All of the good that I'm seeking is filling me up and flowing forth, and I have more than enough. So we prime the pump by tithing 10% of what's come in so far, and then more comes in and we get to tithe on that, and more comes in, we get to tithe on that, and the process works. It is the same process working in a different way. It works in our relationships. When we're having a challenge, a difficulty, there's anger or frustration or loneliness or discord, as Breen was talking about in his prayer work story, getting ready for a fight. We can change our perspective. We can take our stance on sacred ground and say, this is not going to be the problem that I might have been anticipating. This is going to be something different than my worst case scenario, the catastrophe that I'm thinking about, and invite in something new. And that infinite creative power that creates everything gets to create something new as us and for us and through us. And it just works. This is Unity Village, and it's the largest New Thought property in North America. And there are other New Thought properties in North America, and there are other Unity facilities, and there are other branches of the New Thought movement, including New Thought Philadelphia. And we all are based on the same idea that there is one power, love, intelligence, or force that creates everything. We are created by that same love, power, intelligence, force, and we're using it to create our lives. The technique for prayer that Unity uses is described as the first thing you do is when facing a situation, something that you want to pray about, is you relax. You relax so you can let go of that vice grip attachment that we have to the current circumstance of the situation or the problem that we think that we're facing. So we relax, we let go. We feel our body from head to toe and allow ourselves to come back into that feeling of alignment and harmony. Then we concentrate. We concentrate to recognize the presence of the divine within us. We move all of our attention to that divine presence. I'm a child of God. and know that that divine presence is the totality of what we are. The next part is to meditate, which is to integrate our oneness, our awareness of our oneness with the divine. And we bring that into a meditation. It can be as brief or as lengthy as is comfortable and appropriate at the moment. And then we do our realization. We understand that that good is already unfolding in our lives. We claim it, we accept it, and then move into gratitude. And that's the process. And if you've been through classes with me and you've heard us do prayers, it's the same thing. It's a slightly different way of explaining the same process that we're doing. And sometimes we need one of the steps more than we need the other steps. Sometimes we are feeling off balance. Sometimes we are not thinking that we're on sacred ground. So the first step in our prayer work is to remember that we are perfect, whole, and complete right here and now, and that we are on sacred ground, and that the good that exists in the universe is available to us through us, and invite love to unfold. So we're all standing on sacred ground, you and me and everyone, in our own particular way. And so the question for you is, what are you going to do about it? If in fact you are standing on sacred ground, if instead of just being at home, instead of just sitting in your comfy chair, you're on sacred ground. The infinite has an idea ready to unfold, something brand new, something wonderful, something creative, something uplifting, something prosperous, loving, joyous, delightful, something that you're going to tell great stories about. If you're standing on sacred ground and that good is about to come into being, what are you doing? How are you inviting that along? How are you participating in that? Because there's a technique. And the first step in all of these prayer practices is the pivot. If we are forgetting that we're on sacred ground, if we are not thinking about the good that is available, that could be available, we get to pivot and turn to that good that we're inviting and open it up. Relax, concentrate, meditate, claim your good, and be thankful. And that infinite creative power that creates everything, the one of which we are making that request, is already saying yes. It's already saying yes. And sometimes they're happy little stories about getting a great parking space or some pieces fitting together wonderfully. And sometimes it's a diagnosis of 6 days and out, turning into a 30-year career that's still vibrant and going on. The good that we're seeking is available to us. Remember, please, today and every day, that you are standing upon sacred ground. You are blessed, and I am grateful for this. So it is.